and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. In this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm. I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Miss Ellyn Heald.
Hi, Norm.
Hi, Ellyn. Thanks for coming in.
I'm still reeling from the comment that you told me right before we went on air.
Oh, we're going to get to that and a lot more,
secret.
Ellyn. It's going to be a proper grilling.
Great.
Let me tell people who we are. Ellyn Heald is a New Yorker by way of Texas and Arizona, an actor, musician, former political operative, currently an avid or rabid hunter of antiques and lover of interior design. Also the founder and artistic director of Living Room Productions, a theater company which hosts monthly artists' potlucks in Bklyn, and the host of a podcast right here on RadioFreeRhinecliff.org called Objects of New York.
Whoa.
I know. So, and that's only half the shit. You're the first person. I wanted like 3 sort of like promo cubes to get it all in.
We'll do a series.
Yes,
Good.
yeah.
I don't want to do a series. I can't.
Oh, see, you pissed off at me already.
Myself that long.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is the opposite of yes-anding. Yes, Norm, and I would love to do more shows with you forever.
Yes-anding is that's a classic improv thing, right?
Classic improv 101.
101.
Yeah.
And what's the idea behind yes and?
The yes and is when someone makes an offer like I'm a cat and I'm on my way to sit in the sun. Your scene partner would say, yes, and I'm also a cat and I'm going to join you in the sun.
Right.
That is a perfect illustration of my improv skills, which is not great.
And have you done a lot of improv? I'm guessing. I mean, you studied acting, right?
Yeah. Officially improv classes, very little. A little bit in drama school. Yes, it was like required at drama school. And then I've done an improv 101 class at UCB, the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in New York City, which is the one that was founded by Amy Poehler.
Right.
And then in life, Norm, aren't we just improvising all the time?
I think so.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I mean,
and
I'll buy that. Yes. And, but.
Yes and no.
So I guess the idea is if you say, instead of yes and, if you say no.
Yeah. If it's a no, but, then you're shutting down the scene. You're not agreeing and you're not world building and you're not reinforcing the fun. And like to know someone, to know but is to like not be listening to your scene partner and to change direction without kind of taking into account what they started to build up. So it's just like does that make sense? I think I explained that.
Yeah. So is there ever a time when in improv you've sort of, it's universally agreed, you have a license to know but?
I haven't gotten that far, Norm. I've only done 101.
101. And where did you do that?
At UCB. Well, when I was at drama school, was at LAMDA, the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. And the improv class there was, I think, like we did sketch and just some silly exercises, and we did some clown work as well.
Oh, clown work.
Which was actually quite challenging for me. It was quite hard.
What was the hardest part of clown work?
I think it's just it's weirdly vulnerable in a way that acting with a script is not vulnerable. And there's a whole surrendering of your ego that has to happen in order for it to be successful. You have to completely just not be afraid to look ridiculous. And when improv doesn't work is when someone is like apologizing for the fact that they're up there looking silly. Like if you think you look silly, it doesn't work. So you have to fully embrace it and fully go for it. And that's when the audience will get fully behind you. And clown work was kind of the same. I don't know if this makes any sense, but
it does. Because I'm thinking as you're talking, the clown work is probably, it's not scripted, right?
Not scripted. You can kind of rehearse an idea. And like like one of the scenes we had to do was like lip sync, and you would pick a song to lip sync to as your clown character, whether it was a sad clown or a happy clown or a hungover clown or whatever it may be. God, I honestly, like this class was so difficult for me. I've kind of blocked it out because I did not enjoy it in a way that like a lot of my other classmates did. What I was really good at was improvising. Oh God, I shouldn't say it because then you're going to ask me to do it. I was really good at improvising an iambic pentameter.
Get the fuck out of here.
There was a class where we had to like improvise a Shakespeare monologue. And I guess because when I was I was doing a classical theater course, so it was Shakespeare all day long, Jacobean drama, Spanish Golden Age. But I was steeped in Shakespeare. I've been steeped in Shakespeare. I've been steeped in Shakespeare for years, Nora.
I see.
Anyway, so we had to improvise. There was like a challenge to improvise a monologue in iambic pentameter.
Was that was that rhyming iambic pentameter?
It was just on the beat. So the iamb is, you know, dee-dum, 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 dee-dum. It's 10 syllables in one line. And I think it was like do 14 lines or something like that. So like a sonnet length monologue.
It's a little bit like
and weirdly that
rapping
just
in
like
blank verse.
I suppose so. Yeah.
There must be some rapper who like did that.
Wrapped in blank verse.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to do on accident because the pentameter is actually quite natural. It's a natural way of speaking. So it's probably, I bet you're right.
Interesting.
I'm sure it's right. Yeah.
So you said you're well versed in Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Who was a playwright at some point. Is that correct?
At some point.
Yeah. And how well versed? Are you well versed enough to go for the Shakespeare lightning round?
Oh no!
Yeah.
All right, hit me.
You're hitting with Martin of the Hamlet, who was a champion lightning round participant.
All right, I'm so ready.
Shakespeare lightning round. Women in Shakespeare. I'll name the character. You tell me the play.
Oh, no.
It's going to start easy. And then get hard, and then there's 2 bonus questions.
And there's a couple of characters who have the same name. So
Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, good one. Cressida.
Troilus and Cressida.
Oh, good one. Lady Macbeth.
Of the same play.
See, I told you. Cleopatra.
Antony and Cleopatra.
Yeah. Ophelia.
Hamlet.
Portia.
Merchant of Venice.
Desdemona.
Othello.
Cordelia.
Cordelia is King Lear.
Titania.
Midsummer Night's Dream.
Katerina.
Taming of the Shrew.
Rosalind or Rosalind.
There's a couple of Rosalinds, but you're probably thinking of As You Like It.
Okay, I am. And these 2, Hero and Beatrice.
Much Ado About Nothing.
Oh, yeah, baby. Lightning round champion. Move over, Martin of the Hamlet. And as luck would have it, you brought, this is the tradition here, an adult beverage, and it's champagne.
Champagne is, it's the champagne of drinks.
Yeah, it's the champagne of champagnes.
Am I right?
Yeah.
You know, champagne's good for you, Norm. It's bubbly. It's it's flavorful. It's not too high in calories, probably.
Now you're just
I've never had a bad
shit up.
time on champagne, and neither have you, and you know it.
Huh.
Am I right or am I right?
I suspect you are.
All right, here we go.
I really couldn't say for sure. Oh, that is a great
Sorry,
noise.
I didn't mean to pop that right
Thank
in
you
front
so
of the
much.
microphone. Do you prefer a kind of a coupe?
Whatever.
Or a little
a glass. I like a glass.
All right.
You see people drinking champagne out of the bottle sometimes. It doesn't seem...
Ooh, I'd love to do that.
Very good.
I feel like such a
Well,
lush.
thanks for pouring me some first.
Oh, you're very welcome, Norm. I'm going to have that one for myself. Would the studio audience like some champagne as well?
Studio audience being Martin of the Hamlet.
Martin and Matt.
And
Jen.
Matt and Jen.
Yeah.
The bosses here at radiofreerhinecliff.org.
I'll just pour this one.
Which is coming to you live from the back of the Epicurean, the corner store in Rhinecliff, New York. And special thanks to Patricia Wind and Cliff Wind for letting us camp here and broadcast from here. What? Cliff Platt. Oh, Cliff Wind. Well, we'll call him that from now on. He'll like that. Well, cheers. Ellyn, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Honest to God, as I was looking at all the stuff you've done with your life, it's so much stuff. You have a whole nother thing apart from acting, which is sort of the business Ellyn.
Oh yeah, business Ellyn.
Yeah. Do you still do the business end of things?
When you say business end, you mean do I work for money?
Well, you must act for money sometimes too. And
I act for money.
And I've heard you sing.
I sing. I don't sing for money yet.
That's surprising.
Sometimes I sing for money.
Such a beautiful voice.
Oh, Norm. Go on.
Yeah, that's nice,
Okay.
The business thing, experienced project manager, logistical coordinator, strong history supporting C-suite executives, blah, blah, blah.
You got that off my LinkedIn, huh?
Yeah, right off of the LinkedIn.
Yeah, you got to have a LinkedIn. Isn't that annoying?
Yeah, I got the transcript from somewhere else.
Yeah.
But we're on this. What does that mean?
What does it mean to be a project manager?
Yeah, what do you in practice?
You tell other people what to do.
You do.
And you say, did you do the thing that you said you were going to do?
I see.
And then it's a lot of spreadsheets and calendars, and Norm, it's a noble profession.
Is it?
And I'm sure it would be a perfectly fine job for me to continue having for the rest of my life, because I find it very boring. And I think it's good to be bored at your day job, because then you have, more emotional room and mental room for the stuff that you really like.
And do the people you work with and for know that you find it very boring?
They know that I probably, maybe. Let's be honest. I'm a pretty open book. They know I'm an actor, and they know I'm a creative person. And they know that I don't think I've had the conversation in which I've said, "Hey guys, just so you know, this is not my passion."
Right.
I work for a really interesting company though, and it genuinely, the content of what we do is actually quite topical and relevant. It's all around AI.
That's good. The backspinning's going great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just in case anyone is listening.
Yeah.
So it's but for me, like I'm completely, I don't know how I got into this admin work. I don't know why I'm particularly good at it, because I don't feel like I'm a very organized person, but it's just something that I fell into. And then because I'm a fear motivated person, I kind of panic and over prepare, and then I unwittingly become good at managing lots of different things at once because I'm paranoid.
Okay. Where did that come from? And also, I sort of feel like being an artist and an actor, and a singer, doesn't work with being a fear motivated person.
Of course it does.
Okay, explain it all.
Being motivated by fear, I suppose it's, well, we're all complicated, complex people with lots of sets of different motivations. But I guess I forget. I'm trying to figure out how to answer your question. So you mean explain why motivated by fear works for being an artist?
Yeah, I think that you can't be crippled by fear.
Oh, sure.
And continue a career as a creative artist.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, no, but of course, because how can you be an artist and be afraid to say anything or do anything and put yourself out there? Right. Yeah. So that's the paradox, is you do it anyway. You get used to the rejection. You hate it all the time. You're an artist, like, what it's like to constantly put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And it never feels good, but you do it for so many years and you're just used to it. I'm really used to not getting jobs. I'm really used to being rejected. I'm really used to all of that stuff. But I love the work so much that when I get the chance to do it, it's all worth it. So I don't know. It's not hard to be afraid. Like, maybe I'm not representing myself well or clearly. I think the fear motivation is more like, I'm afraid that I won't be able to provide for myself. So therefore, like, maybe it's a scarcity mindset. I don't know.
Right.
I've been really poor most of my life. When I moved to New York, I had $700. I didn't have a place to live or a job. And I just kind of scrapped and scrounged and worked, many, many jobs all at the same time just to make it work. And so then when I finally landed one job that paid me enough money to make my life easier, I was like, oh, wow, I have to make sure that I never have to go back to what I was doing before. So I guess that's what I mean by, there's like that fear of motivation, and there's the fear of disappointing people. Like those are the two big things. So if I, in that, like, I've never had a problem with my boss or coworkers. I haven't had a problem with like getting bad feedback, but I'm constantly afraid that I'll let them down. So I always try to do a really good job. Oh God, I hate talking about myself in this scenario, but.
All right. Well, then let's switch the subject and talk about the younger you.
Okay.
Where did you come to New York from with $700 in your pocket?
From Arizona. So I was born in Texas, and I was born in Waco, Texas. at home, actually. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and I was born at home in my mother's bedroom with a midwife, and I lived in Texas until I was 7, and then we moved to Arizona. So I grew up in Arizona and tried to get out after high school. I applied to a bunch of colleges, and I was accepted to a drama school in New York, but I wasn't able to afford it. So I went to Arizona State University. I went to the Walter Cronkite School for Journalism because I had a writing scholarship. And I thought, well, I like writing, and that's still creative, and
Right.
you know, I don't have to pay for this, and it's college, so I'll go. And I did a year, and it was the most depressed I've ever been in my life.
Oh no.
My first news piece was used in class as an example of how to not write a news piece.
Oh, there's a good teacher.
And I will say this though, to my defense, the teacher put my piece up on like you know, they used to have the projector when the like the transparency of the overhead projector. He put my piece up, and then he put somebody else's piece up. And he asked the class, which do you think is the more successful piece? And unanimously, they all preferred my piece. And then he said, no, actually, this is how not to write a piece of journalism. Because it was too good, Norm. No, it was too descriptive. I had too much of a voice. It was more flowery, and he was right. He was right. Absolutely right. But anyway, at that moment, I thought,
those were the olden days when opinion was kept out of
They were just starting to talk about the impact of social media in the news cycle and how it was beginning to threaten journalist careers. So yeah, it was early on. But after that piece of feedback, Norm, I just was furious. And so I phoned it in the rest of the year. I'd always been a really good student. Well, I guess I wasn't, because you found a smirch in my record.
I made that up. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, so I had the year at Walter Cronkite, was really horribly depressed, miserable. So I had a word with my parents, and they were really supportive. But they said, you have to go on your own if you're going to go. And so I had a friend who lived in the Upper West Side.
If you're going to go to New York,
you're going to go support yourself and go alone. They couldn't afford it. It wasn't like a challenge. It was just like practical. Like they couldn't afford to support me out there. And so I did. And so I moved to New York in August of 2011 with $700 and crashed on my friend's couch until I could find a job and an apartment. It was great. It was the most important decision I think I'd ever made.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it worked out. What were the first jobs that you found?
My first job. Oh, wow. I was the assistant manager at the Vitamin Shop on 72nd and Broadway. It was a character building job. I broke up a couple of fights with like people who would just wander into the store. I got to know a lot of the clientele who were very, shall we say, crotchety is too mean of a word. The Upper West Side residents who know what they like and have to have their 100 bottles of supplements. It was fine. It paid $17 an hour, and which was a lot of money to me at the time. And I also I worked doing transcription for like focus rooms. Like a focus group would like do a focus group of like a vitamin, and I would transcribe it. I also worked for a chiropractor's office in which I was more or less luring people into the office under false pretenses. I was in their marketing department. I put that in air quotes for anyone who's listening. But I was instructed to stand on the sidewalk corner near Grand Central with a clipboard and preferably tight clothing. And
showing off your beautiful spine alignment.
Right, my beautiful scoliosis-ridden spine. Yeah. And I would wave people over, and I would ask them if they wanted to have their posture checked and their alignment checked. And we had this contraption that was a complete piece of trickery. It was a pair of scales, and we would instruct whoever it was to put a foot on each scale. And then we'd look at the numbers and say, oh, see, the numbers are supposed to be even, but they're not. You're misaligned. And we would explain to them how they were misaligned. And we would say, well, here's a little voucher. Go see Dr. Kavanaugh. I don't know if I should say his name. He's kind of plays in Montauk. He's doing fine.
Because he sues all of his old marketing department.
Yeah, right. When that job was $20 an hour, and that was cash, and that was amazing.
Sweet.
But I did feel like a prostitute.
Oh.
And there's like lots of other ones. Oh, you know what? Actually, my first job ever, which was really cool, was I worked in an art studio that doesn't exist anymore called Make Meaning, which was actually founded by a friend of mine from Arizona. And she moved to New York and opened this gorgeous art studio, kind of like a make your own pottery, paint your mugs.
Oh, nice.
But it turned into a wine bar at night.
I love those places.
Yeah. And that was also in the Upper West Side. And those are the highlights.
So when you came to New York from Arizona, you didn't come to do those things. What did you think you were going to do?
Well, I was going to act. And so I did. I was auditioning. Oh, yeah. And in between doing jobs, I was auditioning all the time and doing classes. And I think the first show I did was I did like a night of Shakespeare at the Players Club in Gramercy Park. It was like a night of Shakespeare scenes. Did a production of Edward II with a startup theater company.
And did you have an agent? How did you find out about
No,
the
I was
auditions?
non-union at this time, and so I didn't have an agent. So it was just all through Backstage.com, Actors Access. You just browse listings until you can't see anymore. And then you go, and at the time when I wasn't union, you go to the open calls, which means you get to the Equity Center, at 5 o'clock in the morning to wait 3 hours to put your name on a list, to then wait for the rest of the day, to then never be seen. So I did that for a while, and then I decided that wasn't worth it anymore. But occasionally you would be seen, and that was the false promise, sitting in those waiting rooms. Yeah.
Sounds incredibly discouraging all the time.
This is what I'm talking. Yeah, but like it's like a callus. You just you keep doing it every day, and you just build up a resistance to it until one day you're finally like, oh, I don't need this. I don't have the energy or the time for it. But there's such an infectious competition, and at that time anyway, it was like, well, there's hundreds of other people here doing the same thing.
Right.
Surely this is the normal thing to do.
So when did that day come? When the day when you're like, I don't need this?
I guess. Oh, you know what? I found a loophole. So at the time, the union SAG was merging with the radio union AFTRA.
Is this SAG? That's for
Screen Actors Guild.
Okay.
And so AFTRA was the one union that you could buy into.
And that's the radio?
That's the radio one.
Uh-huh.
American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, I think. I could be completely wrong on that. Anyway, I bought myself into AFTRA. They merged with SAG.
How could
so then I became, it was the only union that you could buy into.
What does that mean? Like give them $100 and they give you a union card?
Yeah. So I literally just bought my way into to AFTRA, and then they merged with SAG. Once they merged with SAG, I had to then pay my dues to SAG to become a SAG member. And then when you're SAG, you can join Equity, which is the actors, the theater union. I do not advise this approach because I think when you join Equity too soon, you miss out on a lot of non-union jobs. But to me, doing non-union work just was not even feasible because it didn't pay anything. And
right,
how do you unless you're already rich, you can't really do theater as a non-union person.
Okay.
I don't know.
So you bought your way into AFTRA. They merged with SAG.
Yeah.
And now you're in SAG AFTRA, and you got an Equity sort of came along.
Equity came along later. It was maybe but as a result, I got to get paid really well for the jobs that I did book, and so that worked out fine. And now I'm an Equity actor, and I do Equity shows, and it just means and it meant that I didn't have to wake up at 5 a.m. anymore. I could just make an appointment and show up at my appointed time like a normal human being and be seen and then go home.
And so what were some of the early gigs that you got? Early acting jobs?
Union jobs?
Any of them.
Oh, any of them. I think I mentioned that production of Edward II, which was down in the Lower East Side at Mercury Glass Theater. I worked with Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey. I was with them for the whole summer. We did this great production of Romeo and Juliet, and then a beautiful French play called The Triumph of Love, which is really fun if you haven't read it or heard it. It's a great little farce. I went to New Orleans and did a production of Midsummer Night's Dream there that was set in it was like a voodoo interpretation of like the fairies, and we performed in a barn.
And did you ever do like traveling productions or just
the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey tour was technically a tour, but it was a tour around the state. But we went to different like libraries and schools and did the shows there. And then I don't think I've done any other tours besides that.
So what's the highest number of times that you've ever performed the same role?
Probably just a couple months.
Couple months. So that's like eight times a week for
I think
8 weeks.
6 weeks. Maybe it was 6 shows a week.
Okay.
6 or 7. I think that might have been in Florida.
So that's still a whole lot of doing the same role.
Yeah.
And how is that?
Have you ever acted before?
I have some.
Yeah. I love it. I think rehearsal is always the most fun of any process, of any play especially. Just because that's where you feel like you're really in your element, is when you get to play and figure it out and kind of ask questions, especially if you have a good director. I really love doing this. Is like such a cliche thing to say, but it's like you always figure out how to do the play on the last night, and that has been true for me. I feel that very clearly.
In the last night of the run.
Yeah, I feel like the last night of the run, you're like,
you do it 50 times, and then the 50th time, you're like, fuck, I just finally got it.
Yeah, exactly.
And why would that be? Why do you think that is?
I guess because your brain just wants to make you sad. I don't know. It just doesn't want you to ever be satisfied.
There's pills you can take if your brain wants to make you sad.
Yeah, I've heard. I guess it's just, I don't know. Brings up a good point. Like whether there's any satisfaction to be had in pursuing the arts. Like I don't know.
Whether there's any satisfaction to be had in pursuing the arts. That's what you just said, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you'll ever be completely satisfied with like a piece of, I don't know that I'll ever be completely satisfied with a piece of art that I make, because as soon as I make something, I think, oh God, I would have done that differently, or I should have. I can be proud of myself. I know I'm not trying to sound like I'm totally self-deprecating all the time, but for the most part, yeah.
No, it doesn't sound especially self-deprecating, but it doesn't sound especially joyful either.
I guess you're right, huh? Oh boy. Staring into myself. You know what I was really proud of? I was genuinely proud of teaching myself a new skill in order to do a show. And that was when I took myself out of my comfort zone and taught myself a new skill. I can look back on that experience and genuinely say.
What was that skill and what was the show?
It was a production of Passing Strange at the Wilma Theater in Philadelphia. Passing Strange is a rock musical, and I was in the onstage band, and I learned how to play the bass for that show.
Oh, wow.
They thought I already knew how to play the bass when I got the audition, because the person who told them about me said I could. And
you didn't have to fill out sort of a form where they asked?
No, it was like a friend of a friend knew the creator of the show. It was like, oh, you should see my friend Ellyn. You need a bass player. Like, she's a musician. She can do it. And so I drove down to Philadelphia. Well, I can play the guitar and I can play the ukulele. So I figured like, oh yeah, I've touched a bass before. It can't be that hard. And so I bought, like, the night that I found out I had the audition, I like ran to Guitar Center, got the cheapest bass that I could find. And I also don't read music. So I had to kind of figure out how to cheat that. How did I do that? I think I just listened to the score. I can play it by ear pretty well.
Okay.
So I just manically rehearsed the audition piece for a few days, drove down to Philadelphia, completely bombed the audition. Like, of course I did, because I was nervous. But I got the job anyway, and I don't know how I got that job. But then once I got the job,
you were good enough, I guess.
I guess there was no one else. It was good enough.
Yeah.
But then this was right before Christmas 2017. And so I spent all of the Christmas holiday really, really practicing and learning the whole score. I had my friend Frank, I had him play the score for me, and I watched him and then repeated it and like just practiced that way until I learned the whole thing.
Him. Good friend.
Really good friend.
Well, so that's stage band. And it's amazing that you learned that so quickly and got hired, got the part and did that. What about for acting? Are there roles that you look back on and you're like, I kind of nailed that one?
I was in a play last year. It was the premiere of a new work. It was at Premiere Stages in New Jersey. It was a 2-person play called Satellites. And it was the first contemporary play I've ever done, in that it wasn't a period piece. It's set in present day. Brand new playwright, brand new play. And I originated the role of the woman, Dr. Catherine Sparks. She's a marine biologist concerned about the changing climate, and her husband is an astronaut who is missing in space and then comes back, and they reunite. And it's very much a play about their relationship. The stakes are really high, and but it's very much about the two of them. And I think the alchemy of having a really great director, a really lovely playwright who was in the room to answer questions, and a phenomenal actor opposite me just freed everything so much. And I will say I was genuinely proud of that one. That was a good one.
And was this a new feeling, a new phenomenon for you to be so freed to sort of, I'm just guessing, like sort of get out of your own way?
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm in my 30s now and I don't give as much of a fuck and I'm less concerned with, I don't know, perfection, and I'm more or if it was just like working with a contemporary script felt really great, and I should be doing that more often.
Right.
But it was a really lovely feeling, and it did feel good. Yeah.
And so what is that like to not sort of give as much of a fuck?
Sometimes I think I'm lazy, and I think, why? Well, and sometimes I think, well, no, you're just doing, I don't know.
But this play that you did, what was it called?
It's called Satellites.
Satellite. I mean, I'm guessing there was a lot of freaking work. You had to memorize all the lines and all the blocking and a lot of studying and a lot of rehearsing. I mean, so that doesn't work with being lazy.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, I cared immensely about that process. I guess what I mean by giving less of a fuck is like trying to be like thinking about myself less and thinking about what we're making more. Does that make sense? Like trying to think less about how I look and how I'm coming across, and more about what's working and what's real in this scene. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I felt like when I was in my 20s in drama school, I was really, really keen to show my feelings and be a good actor and show how good of an actor I was. And I think now I'm kind of, I sound so full of, it sounds so pompous, but I think what I felt in that was like, I felt like I could kind of sit back a little bit in the work and kind of just trust that it was there, and then just go out on stage and trust my scene partner and let it exist.
Trust that it was there. What's the it in that sentence?
The support, the technique, the work, the emotional work was all going to be there for me. I didn't have to push it or force it or go looking for it or show it. It was like, no, you've done the work. You've been in rehearsal. You know the lines. You've done all of this already. You've done this preparation. Now you can just kind of like let it sit loosely in your gut and just go out there and like feel what's happening.
It sounds amazing. You put in your 10,000 hours.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how many hours it was, but maybe.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
and was Satellite really the first time where you were there in that headspace, that heart space?
I played Cleopatra in my grad school's production of Antony and Cleopatra, and that was probably the other time that I felt that way. But I think I was too young to play Cleopatra.
Right.
But it was pretty damn powerful. It was a really Yeah, so I felt close to that. But it's a good question, Norm. I don't know. It's hard for me to look back on my work and think, oh, yeah, I was really, really proud of that, because I'll always find something that I'm like, oh, that wasn't great.
Right.
But I think that's pretty close.
But I'm guessing you probably don't harp on it. I mean, if
Not until now.
Oh, good. Good. Well, I'm not going to stop until I get some tears out of you. They better
Just
not
like
be
drama school
fake
all over
actor
again.
tears. Which brings me to another question. I mean, can you cry on demand in a play or in a movie?
Not like Claire Danes can cry on demand, but I'm pretty.
Was not
It's
aware
pretty
that-
damn close. Like the tears are virtually just underneath the surface for me anyway. I can kind of just cry throughout the day,
Right.
no matter whether or not someone asks me to.
Right, so you just sort of tie down
It's
the
just
free-floating existential angst.
You
And
just love a cry. Don't you love a cry?
me?
Yeah.
No,
Oh, okay.
I don't. I mean, I cry often,
Oh,
but no, I don't think I do.
I love a cry.
Huh? What do you love about it?
Oh, it just feels like, in a way, my brain kind of goes quiet when I cry, and I can just be crying.
Uh-huh.
Whereas before the cry, my brain is really noisy, but then the cry happens and I'm just crying.
That's
Does that
nice.
make sense?
So it's kind of a form of meditation.
A little bit. I like that. Yeah, sure. I'm going to
Sure.
make an app called Teary, and it's going to be a guided meditation to make you cry.
Teary. Do you meditate? Do you do things like that?
It's really hard for me to be still. So my meditation is going on long walks, which I have been told counts.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, lots of sort of Buddhists have like the walking meditation.
Yeah. So I do that. I tried it. I've tried the apps. Tried Calm. I tried
apps.
Waking Up. I tried, or what is it? Yeah. Probably. I'm looking at trying a new one even. There's one for like a CBT app, like cognitive behavioral therapy app. You're
Mhm.
supposed to be very mindful of your thoughts, and it's very intense.
And what do you hope to get out of that?
I have a pretty noisy, overactive brain,
Uh-huh.
and I am realizing that the noise is so constant that I have it's hard to discern sometimes what is noise and what is useful. I don't know. And
Right.
I think just I have a bit of anxiety that goes along with that, just because if there's so many thoughts running at the same
Right.
time, that can generate some anxiety. So I think
see.
just
So the left side of your brain and the right side just stood in the scales, and
they
the,
gotta
and
go to the
weight was
chiropractor.
different. And
Why didn't they come see me
yeah.
on the side of the street?
Well, when's the last time you cried?
Yesterday?
And what set you off?
I don't know. I think I don't know. That's a good question. Probably a commercial, or like
Commercial.
or
Oh my
just
God.
something, or some like stupid TikTok video.
I love that.
Maybe, yeah. I must have been watching some. I don't think it was a spontaneous cry. I think I was probably watching
It was a
something.
Budweiser commercial. Yeah.
Right.
A friend of mine, because I do cry easily, said, "Dude, you cry at Folgers commercials." I was like, "What? Some of them are so
The
good."
creepy brother sister Folgers commercial.
No,
No.
the creepy ones.
That would be weird to cry at that
Yeah.
one.
So, did you cry in 2016 when Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Hillary Clinton stole the California primary from Bernie Sanders?
Oh boy, we're going
I
there.
did. You're like, wow, cry.
I
That's
was
a
there.
thin segue.
I was there that day. I was at the DNC.
Yeah.
Didn't cry. I'm pretty good in chaos. Like, I'm pretty good in a crisis. And so when other people around me are pretty hyped up, keyed up, I can be pretty calm. I don't know why that is, but I don't think I cried. I think I was just so goddamn tired at that point in my life that I was ready for it to be over. And it just felt so surreal. And in the days leading up to the DNC, there was a lot of shenanigans going on. A lot of whispered conversations of like, I can't believe what's happening with like the hack and
Right. Now, for people listening, I know a little bit enough to ask that question. What were you doing at that point? Why did I ask that question?
I was working on the Bernie Sanders campaign of 2015, 2016. I started off as a national advance staffer. This was again a job that was one of my list of jobs. I volunteered once at a Bernie Sanders campaign at the Town Hall Theater in New York, and they were staffing up at the time, so I applied and got hired. And then I worked as an advance staffer for a few months. And
What does that mean?
The advanced staff is like a technical crew for theater. So they go to a city in advance of the candidate. And if there's an event, if they're doing an event in that city, the advance crew will set up all the logistics. So the hotel, like the transportation, the venue, everything like that. And my piece was sorting out the hotel logistics. So that meant I got to know Bernie and his wife, Jane, pretty well, because I got to know what they liked and didn't like and what time they woke up and all of that kind of thing. So I developed a friendship with them. And then eventually Jane asked me to come on the road with her and kind of be her person to help coordinate her events that she was going to do separately from Bernie. And so my title changed to special advisor, but it was really just like an assistant role. I just kind of said yes and had no idea what I was doing, but figured I would figure it out anyway, which is true, that was the biggest lesson I learned, was you can just say yes and figure it out later. So I did that. And so as a result of that, I started traveling with the inner circle of Bernie and Jane and the main campaign crew for the rest of the campaign. And so that's why I was at the DNC that fateful July day.
Wow. Well, speaking of saying yes and figuring shit out later, looking for some Hamlet scoop, has Martin asked you to marry him yet?
Many times.
Many times. Have you tempted to say yes and just figure shit
it out
later?
I am very tempted. Yeah.
Well, you could accept the proposal that didn't happen just now.
Live on air.
You know,
I knew it. I knew this.
You did a year of journalism school. You know how valuable a scoop will be for my ratings.
Oh my God, Norm! Yeah. I knew there was some kind of hidden agenda here.
A nonstop hidden agendas. That's the title of my autobiography.
We're basically pre-engaged. Yeah, because it's gonna.
All right. Well, that's scoopish. I'm happy.
Scooped.
Yeah. So back to would you say July of 2016?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think that was the DNC. Yeah. July.
Yeah. And what were people whispering about? What was happening?
Oh, I can't say that.
You can't.
No.
You won't.
It was, but I will say that Bernie was like doing great, and he was like, he did absolutely what needed to be done, and was very just like matter of fact about it. And obviously, it was crushing for everyone on the campaign. And after he conceded, he made his speech. We went, immediately back to Vermont, and I was on the plane with them and took them back to Vermont. We landed at like 2 a.m, and I drove them home, said goodnight, and sent an email to the campaign thread that said Intrepid is down for the evening, and that was his code name. I don't think they're going to reuse the same code name, so I think it's fine to say. What was felt afterwards was going to the campaign office the next day. The voicemail box was full of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages of just like people who were absolutely outraged, betrayed. Many of whom said they were changing their vote to Trump because how could he concede to Hillary? It was really devastating. It was a really devastating.
They were
morning.
Outraged that he had conceded.
Yeah. It was just message after message after
He didn't
message.
have a choice, if I remember correctly. I mean, the writing was on the wall.
No, he didn't have a choice. No.
People are outraged anyway.
Yeah.
People are happy to be outraged.
Yeah.
It's
But it was pretty harrowing. I actually have a voice memo recording of about 30 minutes of that morning of us playing messages on the campaign phones, listening to these messages, and it was pretty chilling.
Right.
Yeah.
So his code name was Intrepid. Did she have a separate code name?
I forget. Although we also called him Earl.
Earl.
Like when we were checking them into hotels, he was Earl, and she was, I forget her name now. I don't remember.
Tammy Wynette.
Jean, maybe.
Yeah. Earl and Norm Jean.
Yeah.
So you dropped him off at 2 a.m. You sent out the email. You listened to the recordings the next day. And then what happened? I mean, the campaign's over.
The campaign was over. It was winding it down, and I stayed on to continue working with Bernie and Jane. I kind of helped wind down the campaign. There was like a lot of archive work to do. And so I was just living in Vermont for the rest of the summer. It's very, very sweet, but he mentioned me in his book, in his like little book of acknowledgments in the Our Revolution book, because I helped archive some of his materials. And then Jane set up the nonprofit think tank, the Sanders Institute, later that year. And I was with her from the very beginning of that and helped her literally like built the website and helped set up the entire thing. But it was, and that's still going. And now her son, Dave, is the executive director, I think, still.
And what's the mission of the Sanders Institute?
It's similar to Brookings. It's kind of like a think tank where they have a group of fellows who collaborate on policy and make recommendations and talk about issues. And it's about education and empowerment and like making voters informed so that they can vote on issues from a place of education rather than like just following whatever candidate they like.
Right.
So it's meant to be a way to educate across all the issues.
And how long were you there?
A year, I think. And I was, I was on offer. I could have stayed probably forever, but I was really missing New York. And so I didn't want to move to Vermont. So I moved back to New York and then parted ways at the end of 2018.
Right.
Yeah.
Must have been kind of bittersweet.
It was, yeah. I mean, in a way we were very enmeshed, and it was a bit of like, more than like a, I don't know. I was just ready for a little bit of a lower pressure job, a little less stress.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then I started working in admin, and I got a job as an office manager, and I was like, this is great. This is so easy and nice. I don't have to think. I can just come in and do my job and leave at 5. It was amazing.
Wow. How nice. And had you been a big Bernie supporter prior to joining?
I had never heard of him before.
Right. So you helped out at like some theater in New York City?
My job was
sucked in.
Yeah, they told me my job would be to take tickets, and then I ended up doing like 3 or 4 other jobs. I got to usher Mark Ruffalo from the front of house to the backstage area. And my friend Paul, who was the one who got me on the campaign, was like, they're staffing up and I can get you in. And they need women and blah, blah, blah. But I heard Bernie speak. I listened to his whole stump speech, which I had memorized at one point, and I don't have it memorized anymore. But I was completely, riveted. And I thought, oh, wow, this seems really great. I've never connected with a politician before, ever. I think I like this person. He seems really genuine.
Right.
And he's exactly who he is behind, off camera as he is on camera.
Right.
Yeah,
and
he's the same person.
Very genuine and authentic.
Yeah.
So you said you had his whole stump speech memorized at some time.
Yes.
Which is, a big part of acting is memorizing all of your lines.
Yeah.
So, but it makes me think, don't actors often have little monologues that they perform when they go out on auditions?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Are you testing me?
Oh, not testing, but I'd love to hear one. Do you have a short monologue that you love doing in auditions?
Oh no!
That you'd care to share with the massive studio audience?
I have a Shakespeare one that I just have because it's in my brain forever. I don't like doing it as much, but I can recite it for you quickly.
Sure.
Okay, it's Paulina from The Winter's Tale, and the scene is. Let me set the scene for you. Okay. Paulina is the main lady in waiting to Hermione, who's the queen of Sicilia. Hermione has been falsely accused of adultery by her husband, Leontes, who is the king of Sicilia. Hermione dies, and Paulina is complete. Oh, by the way, Hermione is pregnant. And so Paulina is enraged by this and basically comes into the scene to rip Leontes a new asshole.
I didn't realize this was a Shakespearean phrase.
That's right. Yeah. So the monologue is what studied torments. I'm not going to perform it. I'm just going to recite it. Is that okay?
Whatever you feel like.
Okay. What studied torments, tyrant, hast for me? What wheels, racks, fires, what flaying, what boiling and leads or oils? What old or newer torture must I receive, whose every word deserves to taste of thy most worst? Thine own, damn it, thy tyranny together working with thy jealousies, two fancies too green for girls, too green and idle for boys of 9. Oh, think what they have done, and then run mad indeed, stark mad, for all thy bygone fooleries were but spices of it. That thou betrayedst Polixenes, 'twas nothing, that did but show thee of a fool, inconstant, and damnable, ingrateful. Nor was it much thou wouldst have poisoned good Camillo's honour, to have him kill a king. Poor trespasses more monsters standing by, whereof I reckon the casting forth to crows thy baby daughter to be or none or little, though a devil would have shed water out of fire ere done it. This is not, no, laid to thy answer, but the last, O lords, when I have said, cry woe, the queen, the sweetest, dearest creature's dead, and vengeance for it not dropped down yet.
Wow.
That was a little rusty.
Amazing. Yeah, but it seemed like you couldn't sort of help but act it a little bit.
You get into that rhythm and it kind of carries you like a little motor, you know.
And,
the sweetest, dearest creature's dead. That's hard.
That must be helpful, the rhythm in memorizing Shakespeare.
I think it is. It's kind of like song lyrics. Like it's a little
Right.
bit, I think in some ways it's a lot easier to memorize Shakespeare than like a contemporary monologue where the thoughts are a little bit more loose and disconnected. Like
Right.
Shakespeare monologue, especially if it's in blank verse, is like basically memorizing a song. And for whatever reason, that works for my brain in a way that's a little easier.
Are they not all in blank verse?
No, not all. That's very common, but there's so blank verse is in the iambic pentameter, and then he also writes a lot in prose. So, for example, in Othello, Iago speaks a lot in prose, and the kind of accepted scholarly interpretation of this is whenever a character is up to no good, they're speaking in prose. Or if it's like,
interesting.
or if they're common characters, if they're low class, if they're speaking of things that are kind of base, they're speaking in prose. But if they're speaking of love and romance, or if they're heroes, they switch into blank verse. And so you see this in plays, a character will switch from prose to blank verse, and that's kind of a clue to suggest that like there's other themes at work at play.
I love that.
Isn't that cool?
So do you have a special affinity for Shakespeare?
I really do. I grew up, one of my favorite movies growing up was the Ken Branagh Much Ado About Nothing, where he's Benedict and Emma Thompson plays Beatrice.
Right.
And my dad showed that to us when I was a kid, and I just loved it. I was just spellbound. And then the first play I did was Hamlet. I played Ophelia. I was 14, and completely like, I thought Shakespeare had to be done in an English accent. So when I did that audition, I did my best Kate Winslet impression.
Oh boy.
And the director, Matt Logan, was like, you can just use your own voice. It's okay.
Did the director not like your accent?
It was a perfect accent, Norm.
Sure.
But
14-year-olds in Arizona usually nail that.
completely nailed it.
Arizona by way of Texas.
That's right. Yeah. But he said, you can just speak in your own voice. So
Right.
I did, and it's great. And apparently that's closer to how they used to talk anyway in Shakespeare's day.
Uh-huh.
The American.
Do you get called upon as an actress in roles to do different accents
Sure.
often?
Yeah. I've done like some period plays, and like I did an Agatha Christie play last year. So that was, I was doing that kind of posh British accent.
Right.
That's actually it. I have yet to do an Australian accent for anyone.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just begging.
I'm here. Come on.
I just really want to do an Australian accent. This kind of sounds a bit New Zealand now.
Yeah.
Not really doing it
Sound a bit
strongly.
Kiwi.
No,
Yeah.
really sorry about that. But I'll work on it and come back later.
All right,
It'll
good.
be better.
Well, I hope so. Thank you for that.
So sorry.
And you said before we went on, we were talking about accents, and you said, what was it about French? That it sounded,
I was like speaking in cursive.
love that.
Yeah, I think it's a good image. Yeah,
Think of what?
I think it tracks. I think it's a good image.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So Arizona, your folks were supportive. It sounds like of your choices. They didn't have money
My
to
dad did
send
not
us-
want me to go to college. In fact, he thought college was a scam. He's a libertarian.
Yeah, disclaimer: not all libertarians think college is a scam.
Oh, okay, sorry. He went to college, but he doesn't.
And
endorse it.
were they in the arts, your folks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mom and my dad are both really talented musicians. They both play piano. My mom studied opera, but they met at Baylor University in Texas in a German class. Neither of them are musicians by profession now. My mom's in real estate. My dad is in marketing. But he does some gigs as a jazz pianist.
Nice.
But we used to, we were forced to sing together as a family, like Von Trapp style, when I was a kid.
And did you sing out and like?
We sang at people.
Good. Sounds like really endearing. A great way to get the audience in your hand.
Can you tell my inner feelings about this?
Singing at people. Well, so your dad was a jazz pianist.
Yeah.
Are there any jazz pianists sort of nearby here in Rhinecliff?
Well, I seem to be sitting next to one.
Oh.
In that, right?
Martin of the Hamlet.
Yeah. He's been known to plunk a few keys.
Sure.
A lot of black keys.
Some Oscar Peterson or some Brubeck.
Do you know any?
No? You don't play any jazz piano?
No.
No. It sounds.
I barely play piano.
Well, you've got one or two of them in your house, don't you?
Just one now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did there used to be two?
Cutting back.
Just a minute, cutting. Smart. Very smart. Cutting back on the pianos.
Musical instruments. Do you know any jazz musicians in the neighborhood?
What's that?
Do you know any jazz?
I don't. I thought I was betting on
you were doing
Martin.
You were doing a bit. I see.
A bet. I think it was a bet. It was just a bad guess, I guess.
It wasn't a bad guess.
Well, thank you. So what's next? What roles on the stage would you really love to have? Do you have dream roles?
I used to have answers to that question, and I don't think I do anymore. I think originating a role was on my bucket list forever.
And you did that.
And I got to do that, so that was really great. I would probably love to play Hamlet. I've played Lady Macbeth. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
And I really love, what's that play that I love? Oh, Chekhov. I've never done Chekhov. I really want to do Chekhov.
Which one?
I would love to do, I did a reading of Chekhov. That doesn't really count. Three Sisters or Uncle Vanya, Seagull. I just want to be on stage in a Chekhov play. I don't really care which one. And
do you currently go out for many auditions?
It's a bit rough right now, I'm not going to lie. I submit all the time. Actually, my agent recently passed away. So it's extra rough. So the assistant of the office kind of took over the roster, and it's just been kind of a tough time.
Well, now I hate to say this, we have 30 seconds left, and we didn't even get to your podcast on the station, Objects of New York.
Yeah.
What the hell's that all about?
Objects of New York is a great podcast. You should go listen to it. It's about New Yorkers and the stuff that we create or stuff that we collect from the street or antique stores. It's just like a fun storytelling podcast. It's 20-minute episodes. It's great. You should go listen to it.
And it's just you talking about things.
Me talking to a guest. I have a guest on, and they talk about their stuff.
Uh-huh.
We have a nice little chat, little chinwag.
A chinwag, a 20-minute chinwag.
That's right.
On radiofreerhinecliff.org.
That's right, Norm.
Called Objects of New York. Was it a Cockney accent?
I don't know what that was. I don't know what this is.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, love.
Thanks, love.
And that's the end of our time. Ellyn Heald, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you,
Martin,
Norm.
thanks for coming in for moral support. Matt and Jen, thanks for being the best producers a fellow could ever dream of.
Yeah.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a great Friday and a fabulous weekend.